Bum, 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 bum.
There he goes. He starts
Hi.
in. Just starts.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. Happy
Happy
Wednesday.
Wednesday, everybody. Hey.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we're live right now. There are people watching, guys. I'm kind of nervous now. I have
Yeah.
stage fright.
You
Do you?
have stage fright. Okay. Who's
Oh
lying
gosh,
up in
I'm
here?
Oh, these eyes on me. Oh my god, what am I gonna do? I'm sweating.
What's going on up in here?
So
I'm
how's
trying to share it out.
How's everybody's week been going?
You had to bring that up.
I don't know what it is. I mean, because we were talking about before the show. You know, I don't know how much Donny has encountered, but me and Randy,
Mhm.
we're like people. We know it's miserable out there, but please,
There's a lot of negativity in the world right now. I've noticed.
Yes.
I've been noticing.
Have
Yeah,
a little kindness,
A
compassion.
lot of bad juju, yeah.
Yeah, have some sweet tea
You
on,
know,
on the porch. Yeah.
and I got my sweet tea right here, by the way, but it ain't helping.
I got my Pepsi. We're good. But I think, you know, I don't know what's happening. I understand that you know, there's a lot of bad things going on weather-wise with the flooding, the you know, everything that's happening. We know that there's a lot of negativity and a lot of bad things out there happening. But my goodness.
It's like everywhere in the
Woo.
world. I look over in the States, I check out at what's going on here in the US, a lot of negativity. Look over in Europe, lots of negativity. Look
Lots
over
of
in Asia,
negativity.
lots of negativity. It's just everywhere. Look over in South America, plenty of negativity. There's just bad stuff going on everywhere. It's just,
No,
I don't know what
know.
it is.
I don't either. I mean, if anybody has any suggestions, let us know. But
Can't
I mean,
we all just get along?
I know. You know, because we all know that negativity breeds negativity. We know that, but positivity does the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have a little kindness out there, everyone. You know, laugh a little. That's
Yeah,
why
people
you're
are
here
freaking
on our
out.
show, is to laugh a little.
Yeah.
You
know,
I'm grumpy for this crap. Okay, I don't deal with this stuff very well.
Yeah, get some snacks. Get your favorite drink. Hang in
well,
there with
I think we're a pretty good like trio because Randy's always grumpy.
Yes.
Randy's always a ray of sunshine, and I'm always
no. Hold up, time out. Whoa. That you need to quit sucking up. First of all, okay.
I am a ray of sunshine.
Randy's always a ray of sunshine.
Look at her face. That is the biggest. Let's see. Let me I'm trying to say the biggest blankety blank eating grin I've ever seen in my life. Right there.
Well,
okay?
you know, everybody has their moment, and I believe it can be a moment, and it doesn't have to last.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
See, Amy, you are absolutely 100% right. Thank you. Somebody said it right.
Randy is the ray of sunshine.
Yes, I am. I'm just a delight to be around. Everybody loves me, and doggone it, people like me.
Yeah, he's Mr. Grumpy Pants over there. Hey, be kind.
Yeah, you should have heard Mr. Grumpy Pants right before the show.
Maybe
Grumpy Pants.
I got it all out of my system. Let's
that
drive home and coming straight into this. I'm like, I got a vent.
Let's say hi to some folks while we wait for people to file in. Hey, it's BJ. Hey, BJ, good job last night on Rob's show. I was watching that.
I watched the whole thing last night. Loved it.
Yeah.
A little bit this morning, yeah.
Yeah, I watch all the shows, guys. I'm lurking. I'm not always like on in the chat all the time, but I'll leave it on and I'll listen while I do my thing because I'm always like multitasking. So I listen to all the shows.
Donny is loyal. He is out there. Well, you mention his name on any show, whether you think he's in chat or not, he's right there.
Yeah, I like the way you said that Donny is loyal, and it made me think
loyal like a dog. Right like a dog.
Loyal.
Yeah.
Loyal.
Yeah.
Give him a pat on his head. He'd be all right.
Right. You know, and with me, it's so hard to be on everybody's show because if I am not on a show, I'm either sleeping or I'm at work. That's the two things that happen in my life.
Oh yeah, I mean, heck, now of course, I put the stuff out on the podcast sites, and stuff. But so that means I have to download all the stuff. I have to go through and cut the openings. What are you talking about? What is this crap?
Here he goes. Here he goes, everyone.
Oh, she did not just go there, did she? Let's put it this way. I have to take and do editing again because we don't want the show openings after the ads on the podcast side. So I have to do that. Then what I've had to do the last three mornings? I've had to do it from work and remote into my house's computer to do it.
Grumpy Randy right there.
It's all Tex, then the blonde's fault. It's all theirs.
We should just call him Grumpy Grampy.
I wasn't called Grandpa in the Army for no reason.
Grumpy Grampy.
I hate everybody and hate everything.
You wish. You don't.
One thing he loves. That.
I'm sorry, but one thing Randy loves is the paranormal. Okay, yes, that is one thing that he does love, and I can attest to that. He loves the paranormal. So
he does. He does.
Oh, somebody tell Gary to be quiet out there. I ain't crying.
Quit your crying,
Randy. Quit your crying.
That's it. Yeah. Hey, if a soldier ain't trying not to get y'all in trouble, if a soldier ain't bitching, a soldier ain't happy. Okay, that's just all there is to it.
He's got a bad word, everyone.
Beep. I've been nice.
No, if you want the bad words, you go on my show. That's that's where things get raunchy.
I beeped Randy a little bit late, but it's there, everyone. He was bleeped out.
Did you bleep me? The hell?
I did bleep you. But
you're lucky we're on a family show, because
that's right. That's right. So tonight we're going to be talking about, of course, the paranormal, which we all love, but Paranormal Korea. And who better to hear about Paranormal Korea?
Oh gosh, I wonder who it could be.
Donny Cho, the one and only.
Okay, so yes, this is definitely my idea for tonight's topic. This is something that I was kind of intending on, not this particular topic that I was intending on doing, but this type of topic in the beginning when we were first talking about doing the show together.
Right.
I think periodically I want to do an episode where we look at all the paranormal and cryptid phenomena coming out of a country that people don't talk about very often, because a lot of these paranormal cryptid shows are very America-centric, which rightfully so, because most of the listeners are in America, so it makes sense, right?
Correct.
You'll have some over in Europe or quite a few in Canada that we've come across, and some other countries, but by and large, it's mostly America, and these are mostly American stories. And I figured there's way more stuff out there. I mean, there's so many other countries and regions and parts of the world. So I think periodically I want to do a show, like, I don't know, once a month or something, where we showcase like a different country's paranormal legends and folklore and encounters and the big ones coming out of a certain region. We touched up a little bit on like India earlier and Southeast Asia. We did that one. So today I kind of figured, hey, let's just start that off by doing Korea, because I am Korean. I did spend 10 years of my life living there. I do regret moving back to the States. I regretted that from day one. Not because the States were so bad, but it was the circumstances by which I moved.
Yeah.
That's all personal stuff. Yeah.
Right, and we get that.
I get homesick.
But maybe we can do a poll, maybe, and ask people what region or what country they would like to hear about.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. Hey, we should do that as like a post on YouTube. Just do like a little poll and just do like the continents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it on
those polls all the time on YouTube. People posting those.
I mean, we can break it down to countries, because I'm telling you, there's a lot of countries out there that have got some stuff going on.
Oh, yeah, and certain countries have a lot more stuff than others.
True.
Yeah. Like just China alone. You could just spend an entire series on just all that stuff. Anyway,
oh my gosh, yeah.
That was the first one that came to mind, BJ.
Scotland.
Actually, that was the first one that came to mind when I was thinking about it. So
Mexico.
Yeah, some of
Mexico
my
is
favorite
crazy.
stuff comes out of Scotland, believe it or not.
Yeah, we touched up on Mexico before, but yeah, we could do Mexico.
Yeah.
And there, we just barely scratched the surface on Mexico, really.
Oh yeah,
we could do a
did.
whole show just with nothing but Dia de los Muertos. You know, I mean, the Day of the
Hey,
Dead. I mean,
you know, we have a friend that lives in Mexico that we can get a hold of, and that would be Rye Voss.
yeah. Got Rye Voss down there. You also got Tom Franklin lives down in that area
We got
too.
Tom Franklin down there too. I mean, hey, we can get a hold of them.
Werewolf says Japan and the Philippines.
Yes, very much so. Japan and the Philippines too.
Be Kind says almost all of South America.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
they're out there. They're out there.
BJ's like, not Nessie though. I want to know about everything else other than Nessie in Scotland.
You will get Nessie and you will enjoy it.
Don't say anything bad about Nessie. She's here. Okay.
I will channel. Good Lord, my mind just went blank. The guy with the beard. What's his name?
Right.
So I'll
right.
remember here in a bit. So okay, we'll think about it later.
Okay, so talking about Korea, right? It's a small country, South Korea. I mean, not. I believe they say South Korea is the size of, I think, Indiana.
If that, yeah. And I've walked it, so trust me, it hurts. There's a lot of hills in that little bitty country.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's like annoying because they're not like huge mountains, but they're like steep hills.
They're enough to make you mad, is what they are.
Yeah, it is, and especially, oh yep, Indiana. I just looked it up. In terms of square mileage, the U.S. state with that is most similar in size to South Korea is Indiana. So
yeah.
So basically, you take the entire population of Canada, which is going about what, like 30 million, 40 million.
I am not sure.
Cram it into the take everyone in Canada and then cram them into Indiana. That's what South Korea is, population density wise.
Yeah,
it's almost. Go ahead.
I understand that. I mean, something similar that I found out is like Germany per se can fit in inside the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
That's so I get what you're saying. It's a lot of people in a little place.
Yeah. So because of that, there isn't much by the way of wilderness. There's like parks and places you can go, but not a lot because it's just a limited space. So for a country like that, that's why you don't see too much cryptid stuff. Yeah. There's cryptid lore, like legends, like folklore, because obviously there would have been a lot more wilderness back in the days of antiquity. Yeah.
Well,
Michelle Wolfong says, my first husband was stationed in Korea and said it smelled like kimchi everywhere. Well,
everywhere. 100% agreed. But I will say this, though, when you're in the field and stuff in Korea, nobody ever thinks about the cryptids, because when you're out there in those forests in Korea, they are creepy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They are creepy. You get the weird feelings all the time out there.
You get the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes me, that was one of the first things, in 1990, when we were there for Team Spirit. I freaked out. I mean, I was like, this is a dark, dark forest that we were in, So, yeah.
So when people ask, like, what kind of paranormal cryptid stuff is there coming out of Korea? I always say the first thing is, well, we don't have much cryptid stuff. We don't have our own version of Bigfoot because we don't have too many forests because the country itself is very small. Whatever cryptids there are, they're usually like water-based because it is a peninsula surrounded on three sides by ocean. But Korea has a whole ton of ghost stuff because there's a lot of sad, tragic history there. Mm-hmm. Wars, people being colonized, people being just, a lot of atrocities committed against the Korean peoples by like those damn Japanese colonizers who mistreated and, executed a whole bunch of Koreans. And then there was the war itself for a whole number of this. So there's like battlefield ghosts and hauntings. And plus there's the local traditions. Now in Korea, Korea's unique out of all the Asian countries. I've mentioned this before, but it's unique because it's mostly Protestant Christianity, mostly like 65, like the majority of people who are religious in Korea are like Baptist or Methodist.
Wow.
You don't see that in other Asian countries. Like Philippines is predominantly, it's mostly Christian in the Philippines, but it's Roman Catholic.
I was going to say it's Catholic. Yeah.
Yeah. And then all the other countries is either it's going to be like Buddhists or Japanese. Japan and China, they're not even like religious at all that much. Like most of the people are atheists or non-religious. That's because of, the Chinese government.
Yeah, the pushing.
Yeah, the government influence. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
And Japan's whole reason for not being religious, it ties back to like World War II and the emperor. And once the whole facade of like the divinity of the Japanese emperor was kind of lifted, thanks to good old US of A and those two special surprises we packed for the Japanese people, if you know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
That kind of knocked a lot of the sense of like, the divine emperor, that state religion. There was like old school Shintoism there for a while, but that was kind of overtaken by like the Japanese state religion, which then the Americans, swept away.
Blew up.
Yeah.
They
have Buddhism,
but
yeah. I mean, they have Buddhism, but that's more like just. It's kind of like the way Americans treat Christmas and Santa Claus here. It's more traditional than anything. It doesn't really affect their worldview. It's more like of a cultural thing, like, you're not praying to Santa Claus or nothing, but Christmas time comes around, you're thinking about Santa Claus. It's kind of like the same thing. So Korea is unique, right? It's all like Baptists, Methodists. I mean, I come from a very Methodist background. My parents are very Christian, like Protestant Christian. Like my family's a very Protestant family. We do have some Roman Catholics. It's like 60% is like Protestant Christian. 30% to 40% I'd say is Buddhist, and then the rest is like non-religious. But the Buddhist people, Buddhism's been around the longest, obviously, right? Because Christianity didn't come until like the 19th, 20th centuries. But along with the Buddhism that's been around in Korea for a couple thousands of years, they also have their own local traditions that have largely been wiped, pretty much going extinct because of Christianity. And that is the shamanism, which is kind of like, I guess, the Asian equivalent of like Santeria or voodoo, right? This is what they kind of look like. Like a similar to a witch doctor, voodoo priestess, folk medicine, right? This is what a shaman looks like. They typically dress in like a white shawl like this. These pictures are images to various deities, spirits, and long deceased ancestors who've, you're supposed to honor them. And this lady is licking a giant knife.
Why?
It's part of their exorcism rituals. So Korean shamanism mostly deals with like runes, like wards, like good luck charms. That's what they make their money off of. Exorcisms, communications with the dead, and curses. Like, how like, okay, if you're a local person, you go to a folk medicine because of some kind of ailment, right?
Right.
Most people in Korea, they don't go to a shaman for illnesses. They go to shamans to like get a cheat code in life, right? We want to have a child. We need some kind of blessing from an ancestor.
Yeah.
I think this person is completely crazy and insane, and I think they're possessed by some evil spirit. We need you to get rid of them. And they will do these in their exorcism rituals. Like they'll lick knives because one of the things they like to do is like they'll do like these. It's a lot of music and dancing, and while they're dancing, they're wielding these like iron knives around the possessed person, because the idea is it's supposed to scare the evil spirit so bad, because apparently they really don't like iron, and they especially don't like sharp iron implements being pointed at them. That's bad enough to scare them out. And
They
then
also
the
don't
idea
like-
is
Wait. But they also don't like sharp implements like that splitting somebody's tongue into like a fork.
oh, but
or-
they're imbued with the powers, you see, so they're kind of immune to all that.
So this knife, which quite frankly looks like a paper cutter to me, but
Yeah.
I don't get why would this doesn't make no sense why she would do that. I mean, are you going to go get into that ritual at all?
I mean, it's to, I guess, get a response like I gave a response, like, ooh, like, no, thank you for looking on. I'm supposed to promote fear into the spirit that's inhabiting the person.
Right. And
so I
yeah.
get it.
And you know, in The Exorcist, how when they were exorcising like Reagan and the creature came out of her and went into the priest who was performing the exorcism.
Yep.
So he was kind of like a vessel. They'll do something kind of similar. Well, they'll suck it out of the victim, put it into themselves, and then what they'll do is they'll put it into a pig, and then they will chop the pig up.
The pig.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 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 Now it's clicking, because I was like, wait a minute, I've heard this before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not the only tradition. Other cultures kind of do similar-ish things.
Yeah, it's not like it's not like a sacrifice. It's kind of like they're I don't know. They're killing off the host, so this thing can't travel. That it's stuck right in where it's at. That is their belief. Yes. Now, okay. Now it's clicking. I got it. It's like, wait a minute.
So people in Korea, they know not to mess around with these people. Like they're not. It's kind of a dying tradition. They're not. You don't. It's not like if you go to Korea, you'll just see them everywhere. More than anything, if you ever go to Korea, if you go to Korea now, it's mostly like you'll see churches like everywhere.
Yeah.
And you'll see a lot of neon crosses in the skyline. And these kinds of shamans, they're really out of the way. They're hard to find. The tradition is kind of dying because more and more young people are either not in. Actually, no, I take that back. Lately, and this was the point I was going to raise later tonight, but lately, because of Netflix and because of the Western influence of like the paranormal on YouTube, more and more Korean people are starting to get interested in the paranormal
again.
So
starting to bring them a little bit back.
So you're starting to see a little bit more of this.
Right. I mean, but I think that, you know, what you're talking about, Donnie, with Netflix and all of that, is that it is giving we as an Americans a opposite effect. We're becoming numb to it, which people are becoming complacent, and they're not protecting themselves as they should.
Right.
And so I think that's why we're seeing possibly an uptick in these bad entities and things like that, because people are just, you know, they're so numb to it. It's just like, this is what you see. You see it on cable TV, regular TV, you know, movies, all of this stuff. And they're not protecting themselves. They're not as scared of it as they used to be.
Yeah.
And then when it happens, they're like, oh my goodness. Yeah.
Michelle's asking, do they butcher the pig for food?
No.
They bury them, burn them? Oh no, this is Korea. If there's a pig and we're killing it, we're eating it.
They're going to eat it?
Dang right.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I figured they wouldn't. You know, because some that I've heard that do that put this into an animal or whatever, what they will do is they say that if the spirit is within the host and cannot leave the host before it is, you know, killed, we're just going to say that, killed, you know, then they are stuck within the host. But why would they
Mm.
consume it? Because it seems like they would be consuming the bad juju. You know what I mean?
Well, isn't that the thing though? There, if I'm not mistaken, Donnie, correct me if I remember right or not, but the when in their belief, once it's captured into the pig, and once they kill that pig, that entity is destroyed as well because its vessel is now gone. Its living vessel is now gone.
Is that what it is? Okay. Well, that makes sense to me now because I've heard that.
Yeah, it's like folklore thing. I remember for some reason it just hit me from over there. It seemed like, oh wait, now I seem to remember there was a couple of shots that talked about it.
Yeah, because I've heard that in certain cultures that if the spirit is trapped within a body and cannot get out of it before the host pass, then they're stuck within that body.
This is another. I found a couple other images of like them performing an exorcism. That's her putting a knife in her mouth. Here's the instance with the pig. This one might be a little bit disturbing, but it's just, think of it just food, but
yeah, just butcher.
It's gnarly. If you look up the videos of exorcisms on YouTube,
so they do a ritual.
It is pretty disturbing.
It is a little disturbing. I mean, it is a little disturbing. I mean, I could see why they do it.
Yeah.
And people don't mess with them. Yeah, you never mess with them. I've got stories like so when I was growing up in the church, I grew up in the church in New Jersey, and my youth pastor, he was telling us a story that because my youth pastor grew up in Korea, and when he was a kid, he lived in this high-rise apartment that next door, one of these shamans, like their homes, they're basically like, they have like these traditional homes that are set up like a square, but in the middle is a courtyard. So this guy was living next to this house in a high-rise apartment, so he's able to look down into the courtyard. One of these shamans was performing a ritual, like a dance, incense burning. They had all the food set up and everything. You see all the fruit there in the background. And all of a sudden, as this guy's watching, he's like up on the 12th floor or whatever. This shaman stops what she's doing. She stops dead in her tracks. She turns around and she looks that dude dead in the eye. He was like 8 years old looking out the window from the 12th story.
So are these people in that society, are they like on a higher level in their society? Or are they like down towards the bottom where people just kind of sidestep them and walk around them?
It depends. If you are of the mindset of like Christianity, like if you're one of these people who goes to like a very conservative like church, like that kind of thing, you think these kind of people, they're like scum.
Okay.
If you are someone of the Buddhist background who believes in more the traditional practices, if you start a business, you're going to ask for a blessing from these people.
Oh, they're highly revered.
If you're about to have a major life event, like a wedding, if someone very close to you passes away, if you need consultation, kind of like you would go to like a psychic or a tarot card reader.
Okay.
If you have a haunting experience, if you have like, because people do have possessions and hauntings. See, earlier I mentioned there's not that much in terms of cryptids, but in terms of like hauntings and possessions, oh boy, Korea's got a lot. It's got a lot of that stuff.
Well, if they're in need of an exorcist, I guess there should be a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy to me. I mean that because I can see what you mean about them in different parts of society in Korea, that they could be, at the high society level, or they could be at the low end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's like I don't want to be involved with like say voodoo or anything. That is not my thing.
South Korea,
but I'm not going to talk bad about them either. And will I sidestep them? Yeah.
Give them a wide berth as they walk by on the road. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. you know, or I could be just as pleasant to step up and say hello, you know, as I'm walking about. You know, but
people in Korea know if you know that someone is a shaman, like you never want to like piss them off ever.
Right.
Like, everyone knows that. Like, don't cut them off in traffic. Don't be rude to them if they come to your store, because you don't know what kind of hex or curse they can put on you. Because there are stories of like entire families being wiped out because they got the wrong curse. Like they crossed the wrong shaman on the wrong day and got the wrong curse.
Not happening. They can do whatever they want. Just let me.
All right, Brandi, that's a listen to you.
What?
Be careful who you're talking to out there. Could be a shaman.
Yeah. Have you seen these drivers around here? No, they ain't no shamans.
Now, so the patron saint, you know how every tradition like this, they have like their own patron saint. They have that one god that they pray to. Their god or their patron saint is known as Princess Pari. This is kind of like her right there. She's the patron saint. Pari, Bari. It's actually pronounced. Her name is. It's actually a shortened version. It's of the actual name. Her actual name is Poridegi, which means an abandoned baby or thrown away at birth. So the legend is there was this, like, back in ancient times, there was this supreme king, right, who had like 7 daughters, and he had this fortune teller say that basically if he did like this one thing, he would have like an 8th daughter, a 7th daughter, but this guy wanted a son real bad, but he didn't listen to the fortune teller. So, because he wanted to like marry, it's a whole other thing, right? But if he chose A, he would have a son. If he chose B, he would have a daughter. All right, the guy really wanted a son, but he didn't believe in the fortune teller, so he chose B. He winds up getting a daughter, and he gets annoyed at it, at the fact that because he was really hoping for a son. So when he gets a daughter, he tells his subjects to just toss her. I've already got like 6 of them. That's where the name Poridegi comes from, right? So this girl is a baby. She gets abandoned, right? They chuck her in the river like Moses. And the person that finds her in the wilderness is none other than the Buddha. The Buddha is in there. Okay. He's walking through. He's all like, hey, I'm just here teaching. I don't know. I can't raise a baby. So he takes the basket. He finds this old married couple out in the countryside who are childless, but they have good karma, as the story goes. And he gives them the baby to them and says, this baby is special. I want you to raise this child. So they raise this girl as a poor peasant, right? Unaware of her background, kind of like Clark Kent. Yeah. Right?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Until one day it comes out that the king is dead and the queen are deathly ill. And the witches and the doctors, they're all like, you have to go to one of the children, they have to venture west, like so many leagues or miles, like past Asia. Like you got to go so far west. You're going past China. You're going through like you're Mongolia, winding up in the Middle East, right?
Yeah, you're going on the other side of the world. Yeah, okay.
Basically, it's got to be done with one of the children, but all the other daughters are like, no, I ain't doing that. So Princess Badi, she steps forward. She's like, I'll do it. So she makes the long journey to the west, right? To go to apparently these ancient river where all life was supposed to have sprang from, like we're all, not from the river, but in this area where all life is said to have sprang from. Yeah. Sounds kind of familiar, right? The Fertile Crescent.
Yep.
Yeah. Cradle of civilization.
Northern Iraq.
Yeah.
Yep. The Euphrates, the Tigris, right?
Yeah.
Flowing through the Garden of Eden. And they said that she had to go there and get like this water. On the way there, she's traveling alone. A woman can't travel alone in those times, so she dresses up like a boy. Oh yeah, right, to make the journey. As she's traveling, she comes across in the road one Buddha. Right? Buddha sees right through her disguise, and he realizes right away you're that baby that I was. Hey, aren't you supposed to be a girl? Why are you dressed up as a guy? Right. She explains to the Buddha what's going on, why she is traveling west, her mission to save her parents who abandoned her by getting these waters, like a vial of this water from this river from the land where all life came from. And the Buddha is like, oh, you're going there? You're going to that place? And she's like, why? What's wrong? And Buddha's like, I don't know if they told you this, but there's like giants there.
Oh, no.
So he gives her like a couple of artifacts, like this like magical flower, and like in some versions of the story, like a staff to help her. But Buddha warns her, if you're going to go to that specific part of the world, there are giants that you have to deal with. That place is being guarded by giants. It's like Buddha kind of knew about them. And in some versions, not all versions, but in some versions of the story, the giants had red hair.
Oh my goodness. Now I see where you're going. Now I see where you're going with it.
Okay, now I see
Where's
what's
Jason?
happening. Okay.
Where's Jason?
So she goes to where she needs to go. She encounters a giant, right?
Okay.
The giant tells her, I will allow you to get what you need, but you have to you have to do something in return for me if I'm going to let you leave here alive with that water. And she's like, what? And it says, you have to bear me a child. So different versions. Okay, some versions she bears one child. Other versions she bears 7 children. It's a little bit different. But eventually, the giant lets her go. She takes the water, and she goes back to save her parents. But turns out her parents are dead.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
But what happens is, with the flower and with the water, in some versions, she's able to bring them back to life, right?
Okay.
But I find it interesting because the version I told is not like there's like a bajillion different versions of it. This is just a version that I found to be the most interesting, especially when I saw the red-haired thing, and I knew which direction she was going.
Yeah.
That kind of tells us a lot.
Was that when she encountered Buddha, and the Buddha seemed to be aware of like those giants. It's like, oh, you're going there? Yeah, you're gonna want to watch out for giants.
Yeah. That's
That's weird. And for that version to say that they are red-haired, well, we know a different story about the same place.
Yeah.
So it all kind of comes full circle, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I would believe the version that she had one child. I don't necessarily believe the one she had 7 when she was so trying to save her parents.
Yeah, that part I'm like, ooh, that the time frame doesn't make sense.
No wonder the parents were dead when she got back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
even then, getting back to bring them back. I mean, now you're talking about Stephen King. We're doing some Pet Cemetery type stuff now.
But yeah, that's the patron saint. That's the one all the shamans revere. That's the one they all pray to. That's the one they all look up to. She's like the Santa Muerte, right?
Okay, yeah.
That's who they all look up to. So it's just interesting that her story involves like going west to the Middle East, encountering giants.
Right. That's
wild.
That's kind of cool, though.
Like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. That's kind of cool. I was so interested when you were telling me that. I was like, dang. Connect the dots, everyone. Can you connect the dots? Wow.
So that's the shamans.
Jason will rear up somewhere behind me or something.
Yeah, no, Jason and I did a couple shows on that because he was just so fascinated when I told him.
Yeah. So am I.
Yeah.
I mean, because we're talking about 2 different cultures, colliding. And it, these stories coming out of 2 different regions of the world.
Yeah.
But yet they still have the same giants with the same red hair. So that's what makes it fascinating. So we know where she went.
And the fact that the Buddha seemed to be aware of them, like he knew what they were.
Yeah.
And he warned her about them.
He knew.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the 2 different versions or 2 different stories from 2 different parts. They kind of support each other.
Right.
You know what I mean? You've just gotten validation from one to the other and vice versa.
Yes, it kind of lends some credence. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
because if you,
Kind of
yeah,
like an extended universe, like the MCU.
Oh, here we go.
right. It's
Yes.
you got two, like I said, same story,
Yeah.
two different places of the world, but yet
Yeah.
they're
Kind of
still
like a
colliding together.
crossover.
Yeah, that's cool. I like it. That's
I like
pretty
that.
awesome. I dig that.
Now the other thing, okay, I'll point out another crossover. So in Korean folklore, they have something that's very if you study this thing in Korean folklore, you're like, "Oh, it's the Fae." It's exactly the same. All the stuff they
Really?
talk about with the Fae.
Mm-hmm.
But in Korean folklore, we call it, the word is tokebi.
Tokebi?
Yeah. So, but if you run that word through a translator, tokebi, it'll say goblin, which
Okay.
Makes sense.
what isn't really. I mean, I wouldn't use goblin as that term. I think fae is a closer translation, because what tokebi essentially are nature spirits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are
Wood nymphs,
oftentimes
wood
associated with
elves.
orbs,
Yeah.
right? And specifically encountered by travelers in the woods. And even to this day, people claim to see, like, if you're traveling alone in the woods at night in Korea, if you see like a ball of light, like in the distance,
Yeah.
they say that's the tokebi, the nature spirits.
Gotcha. Okay.
They're not inherently
Okay.
good or bad in nature. It's more like how they're feeling when you catch them, right?
Gotcha.
A lot of times
So
they're
kinda like me.
tricksters. Yeah. You got to appease them, like Randy.
Yes. You
Yeah.
have to appease me.
Like Faye, right? That's what you hear about all the time with Faye. They're not good or bad. It's just that some, if you piss them off, they will mess up your day. But others, if they're in the right mood or in the right frame of mind, they might help you out.
Yeah.
They might give you a
Maybe.
little something, something. If you give them a little something, something in return.
You know,
You know,
I
it all
always believe
depends.
the Fae thinks we're peasants anyway.
The Fae?
Yeah, I believe they think we're peasants, you know,
Mm.
and that they just kind of, you know, are more mean than they are nice because
Tokebi are kind of like that.
Yeah.
They are often, the way they're described is similar, very similar to the Fae in like what they do, like their actions. There's different types of Tokebi. There's like the mountain one, the water one, the forest one.
yes.
Well,
There's
wait a
the
second.
house
They
one.
sound like trolls.
Well, I'm thinking more like an elemental type.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I
And
don't think
those
You
I
are
never
would
see their
have
true
them trolls.
form. Yeah.
Yeah, and they are temperamental.
Yeah.
You know,
They're very
the
temperamental.
yeah,
Like
they do
trolls.
require,
Yeah.
you know, if you run across them, they're high maintenance. So they
Some
expect
are
you to
friendly.
give and give.
Some are
Yeah.
hostile.
Yeah.
A lot of them are
I got 5
tricksters.
daughters. Don't talk
What's
to me
up?
about high maintenance, okay?
So, but you never see their full form. But if you ever actually see their form, they're supposed to be like kind of terrible, like to look upon. These are some artistic illustrations of them. The Korean goblin, again, more like Fae. This is kind of like,
I like Goblin better with those renditions. The first guy
Yeah.
was cool. I like the first one.
They
First
kind of
one was really
remind me of more troll-like.
Yeah, like they're
Um,
trolls.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
grumpy
kind of
old
scary,
troll.
though.
Japan's got a similar thing called the yokai.
Now, that one I do remember. And they look
And-
like they're mainly
yeah.
drawn like that guy in the middle right there.
And this is like a traditional depiction of them, like in traditional art. And,
Okay.
not quite
Ooh.
demons. Like they're more nature spirits. They're generally viewed upon as like neutral.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
you don't want to piss
but-
them off.
Yeah, but with fangs. You know,
Right.
they've got them for a reason.
Gonna use them.
Yeah, it's what I mean. They're gonna use them.
Poncho
I
says,
wanna-
I've been gobbling some Korean barbecue.
Oh,
Barbecue's the jam.
oh.
Don't,
Hey,
don't
but you
rub
know
it
what?
in.
You know what? I just thought of something though, and it just makes me want to go back to certain things like
You know, Donny Cho, meme of the week.
It's that time.
Oh, is it time for meme of the week?
It's
It's
that
meme of the
time.
week, everyone, here on the Paranormal
Well,
Show.
guys, I have been watching your shows on Sundays, Brandi and Randy. For those of you who don't know who are watching, Brandi and Randy,
I'm
the two of
scared
them,
now.
they have a show on Sunday called Truth or Tinfoil. It's basically this show minus Donny Cho, so it's not as good.
Well, and I have a lot more fun. And I'm
Actually,
not
if you
monetized, so I
want
can
to
cuss.
know what it is that we take evidence given to us on the internet with no knowledge besides maybe a picture, and then we break it down, and then we try to figure out if it's
And
real
Donnie's
or
been
if
on it
it's
a few
tinfoil.
times.
Yeah, I've been on there a few times.
Yeah,
and
it's actually kind of fun.
And to commemorate the show that you and Randy do together on Sunday, Brandi, I brought a few pictures, so maybe we can analyze together some trail cam pictures, and maybe we can find
trail cam
some
pictures?
evidence.
Oh dear God!
Yes. Are you ready?
Trail cam.
All right, here's the first one.
Okay.
Tex.
What do you see here?
Donny? No,
I see
Donny.
I see what's his name? Sully. I see Sully back there.
Yeah, you see the monster. See that dark shadow in the right? Could that be a monster, like a creature?
I think it was Sully.
Donny.
No.
No bueno.
I found another one that has potential eye shine. Are you ready for this one?
Uh-oh.
I mean, can you notice that? Like, if you look in, there's eye shine in the background there. If you look very carefully, yeah.
Red circle right
Red
there.
Circle Sunday. It's Red
I
Circle
was able
Sunday.
I was able to, circle it to bring the attention to it.
Now, who's that's doing the fighting there, though?
Oh, that's not important. What's important is the eye shine.
No.
Guys.
Was that supposed to be?
That could be real evidence.
Looks like he's about to get. He looks like he's about to get slapped, though.
Yeah, I love that one. I love the eye shine. I love the eye shine.
Eye shine's red.
What do you think that could be? Do you think that could be a dog
Mothman.
man in the background?
I think it is a dog man. I do. I think it's a dog man back there.
Yeah.
I think it's Mothman. I'm going with Mothman this time.
Okay.
And you know how much I love Mothman, so.
Randy's all weird about Dogman, but he loves that Mothman action.
Oh, yeah.
He's all about that
100%.
impending doom and prophecy and whatever. He's loving that.
If that was the case, I'd try to make sure Mothman showed up a lot more often, okay?
Oh,
okay. Anyway.
My goodness.
All right, let me show you guys what is probably the most famous. Okay, the most famous haunted location in South Korea. That's not a palace. Okay, that's not a palace. So here's the thing.
That's not.
There's a bunch of
palace.
palaces, right? And every palace in Korea is haunted. All of them.
Okay.
And there's a bunch of palaces. So if I talked about haunted palaces, we'll be here all day. So the most famously haunted non-palace, it's called Gonjam Insane Asylum.
I was about to say, isn't that old hospital?
Yeah.
Is that the one that's outside of Daegu?
I believe it's in Gwangju, which is not that far.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not that far, but
far,
yeah.
But still.
Now,
Daegu's
this is
the biggest city around it, though.
This is the Korean equivalent of like Waverly Hills. Okay.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Okay. You got to consider one thing. So America's, I guess, interpretation or response to the whole mental illness epidemic is a lot more advanced than other countries. Like, even though if you look at the history behind places like Waverly Hills and those places, like if you read about all these horror stories that went on with like insane asylums early, like the 20th century, 19th century, all of those stories are pretty bad, but you have to consider that's still way more advanced than other countries, because other countries' interpretation of mental illness is way more backwards, even compared to back then.
Yeah.
Right? So the idea of Gonjam Insane Asylum, when this thing was operational, this was literally like the only insane asylum in the entire country.
Holy crap.
Like one or two, but that was it. Because Korean people's understanding of mental illness wasn't all there, because typically, traditionally, if you had someone that was off their rocker, you took them to a shaman to get them possessed. But now, because of the turn of the century, everyone's going all Christian. They're not going to traditional folk medicine. They're turning over to Western medicine, the Western way of doing things. That's when the places like Gonjam Insane Asylum opened up, and this was like the only insane asylum in the entire country. So this place got the worst of the worst.
Well, I was going to say, do you think that maybe they have well, it's a different culture, absolutely. But do you think that if they were suffering from just, I don't want to say simple, but less complicated illnesses, mental illnesses, less complicated, that they would keep them home, that they would deal with them at home with remedies, or the shaman, of course, besides sending them. This was like a last resort of the worst of the worst. You know what I mean?
These are the people who are like criminally insane, or just not even functional. A lot of times, sadly and tragically, throughout Korean history, people just didn't get treated at all.
Okay.
Well, what did family? I mean, you'll have to explain to me, what would the families do if you had one of these in your household? I mean, what would you do? I mean,
repression, ignoring, and a lot of times people would
it be shunning? Like you would shun them? Like
shunning.
Okay.
And a lot of just the self-deletion.
Oh, okay.
It's got more of that than any other country in the world.
Okay.
Like more than Japan. And Japan's known for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. They are known for that. That's crazy. Okay.
The rate of self-deletion is like 10 times more than the US.
Wow.
So there weren't a lot of places like this that were set up. So this was really kind of it. And it was eventually abandoned. This is, just like Waverly Hills, same kind of stuff. Accounts of abuse and mismanagement, mistreatment of the staff and the patients. And because they didn't know what they were doing, this was the only hospital. Well, medicine just got westernized, right?
Right.
Again, just like Waverly Hills, you eventually got shut down because of all of the accounts of, just abuse and mismanagement. This place, this is when it was abandoned. This is kind of like some shots of the interior.
Yeah.
I mean, does this look familiar to you, Brandi?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what I'm in almost every weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, Waverly Hills was. I don't know. It's a very strange place because of, number one, the way it was built. It's very strange in how they did it, because it was half inside and half outside, which was really weird.
Yeah.
And they would have, like, the rooms would open up. The actual room would open up to the corridor outside.
Yeah.
And because it was for tuberculosis, they thought that fresh air was the way that they're going to get cured. So they would open up the doors and push their beds and all outside. And which I don't even know what got them okay with that, but but there's also an inside corridor, so they could open up the doors, push them outside, or open up the doors and push them inside. They go right through their room. It's like they have doors on both sides. It's really strange how it's set up. And then the way it's set is that the nurses' stations were right on the ends. Like you'll have a nurse station here, rooms, nurses' station, and then it'd go on a curve, and then nurses' stations, then are a nurse station. And the way it was is so the nurses didn't have to come out and deal with the patients. They just kind of had to lean around and look out the window and look at them all outside. So they wouldn't even have to come out of the nurses' stations to deal with the patients at all.
Yeah.
So it's just, I mean, I actually found that weird. So I get that. And, you know, and of course, Waverly Hills is known for the death tunnel. And that's because the body toll was going like 25 people a day or better, you know? And they were trying to do this discreetly to get rid of them. And they would have, at nighttime, they would have like the hearses pull up and pick them up and take them elsewhere. And then it got to be too much where they were just piling them up and they would have to haul them off on trucks. And I'm sorry, I'm going off on that tangent, but it's very strange. So in this building that we were looking at, that you showed us a picture of, I'm sure there was a lot of unnecessary deaths that happened here.
Yeah.
You know, do you know any of the history? Like, did they bury him on property? Did they haul him off somewhere? Or
That much I didn't know. I just know that there was a lot of stuff. I know that because of the rise in popularity of paranormal investigations like Ghost Adventures on YouTube, people in Korea started seeing that kind of stuff, and then a whole bunch of people started doing their own investigations of this place. It became a real big destination for a lot of like amateur kind of investigators. Like I said, when I mentioned that Korea is like kind of beginning to start with the paranormal scene, the way I would describe it, it's like the paranormal scene in Korea is like the paranormal scene here from about 30 or 40 years ago, where it was just amateurs, just kids who are kind of curious,
and
urban
still kind of
explorers.
taboo. Is that what it's like?
Still
Like,
kind of taboo, but people like are influenced by what they see on YouTube and they want to give it a try. They get excited about the legends. And also it's like the rise in like the Korean horror genre in like films is on a big rise.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, one of the most popular and probably one of the scariest Korean horror films was actually based off this place. It's called Gonjam Asylum. Ooh. That's a clip from the movie.
Oh,
where the girl, it's like a found footage kind of thing where like a bunch of amateur paranormal investigators go to this very building, and it's like their version of Blair Witch. I recommend it. It is scary as hell, and people start turning into like, you know, black eyed kids start showing up.
Yeah, no bueno.
That is creepy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of tough to look at.
Yeah, a little bit. It's like they're staring into my soul right there. Kind of reminded me of a black-eyed kid, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. Except, you know, just no. Now you got me creepy, so I got to think about that for tonight. Thank you very much, Donny Joe. I'll have that picture like staring at me all night.
This one? Yeah.
Thanks, Donny. Appreciate you.
You're giving nightmares.
I get very interested in those buildings, especially on the property, not necessarily the location or the building itself. I'm talking about all around the property. You know, did some escape? Where did they end up? You know, because you know that some had to pass away out there on that property somehow within the elements, you know. I'm sure some got out when it was very cold, and you know, all kinds of things happen. So I mean, it would be interesting to find out that history, and it to be the only, I guess, maximum security mental facility, I guess.
You know it got the worst of the worst. Like, you know for a fact it got the worst of the worst.
It did.
Yeah.
And how many rooms did it have? Or I mean, were they more like cells? Or I mean, you got me curious now, Donny.
I'll do more research on it for you, Brandi. I'll find out for you.
Yeah,
but I actually
the doors look like normal doors though. So
yeah. I actually wanted to go now into the different types of ghosts and hauntings because they're actually a bit more specific on that.
Okay.
So the most common one in pop culture, and this is common in like all Asian cultures, China, Japan, Korea, Southeast Asia, you got the virgin ghost. Someone mentioned the Grudge earlier, or like the Ring. That's where
Right.
you see the same. This is in like all Asian cultures.
Not too scary.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
common.
But yeah, common. I mean, the version all in white is very common. So, but the long black hair, definitely. The Ring or The Grudge. Yeah.
Now, do you know why it's the long, straight black hair that goes over the face?
Because I don't know. They don't have any eyes.
No, it's because there's a thing in like a lot of these traditional cultures where this is like universal in Asia and even in some Western cultures. If a woman is unmarried, she wears her hair down. But as soon as she is married and has kids, she wears her hair up.
Only until she has kids. I mean, married and kids.
Oh no, well, married. Well, it's weird because once you're married and before you have kids, it's like this weird in between phase where they still kind of do that to this day to some degree.
Half up, half down thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um.
I mean, yeah.
That's where it comes from. So the idea is that a lot of these girls, these ghosts, the reason why they're walking around with the long, straight black hair that's all down is because they got, their lives ended before they could fulfill their worldly duty, which was to start a family. That's why this is.
To become a wife and a mother. Okay.
Right. So,
okay.
And these are everywhere in Asian folklore. Again, not in Korea. What a lot of these shamans will do when they're faced with one of these types of ghosts, they'll do something that's called a soul marriage, where they will find a ghost of a single man and basically perform a wedding ritual to bind the unmarried virgin ghost. Because if they're left alone, these ghosts are known to be very spiteful and vengeful, cause a lot of problems, cause illness, misfortune. So when people think that they have a virgin ghost on their hands, the shamans will they'll do what's called a blind date, where they will perform a ritual to force them to marry the ghost of a young man who died before he ever got married. So that once they're married, their duty, she loses all reason to stay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of like a forced marriage. Gotcha.
Kind of.
Yeah. All right. So it's kind of like it's like a little slap on the hand is what that is to get rid of that type of ghost. I get it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, honey, just get married. Just go. You'll be happy. Go.
That's a uniquely Korean thing.
Yeah, that's like a little slap on the hand. That's not even very forceful. I mean, it is, but it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like fulfilling their destiny so they can leave the earth.
Right.
I got it. All right. That's actually kind of sweet. It's kind of, it's kind of like, well, we'll find you a man here. You know what I mean? It's actually kind of, it's the nicest thing I've heard.
That's something that I see that's
ghost.
just like uniquely Korean. I don't know of any other cultures that kind of does something like that.
Right. But that's what I mean. It's kind of sweet. Like, here's your man. Now you can go. It's like, I'll give you something so you can go. It's just like a little helping hand. It's something you couldn't fulfill in life. We're going to fulfill for you now so you can move along. Very nice. Very nice.
The other type of ghost, this is one I heard that people talking about when I was living in Korea before I was even interested in the paranormal. Like people I knew in Korea told me that they personally had encounters with this. This one's called the Kong Kong ghost.
That doesn't look right.
Typically, they'll appear either upside down on their head, or they will appear as like just a pair of feet or legs sticking up from upside down from out of the ground. Typically wearing like schoolboy or schoolgirl uniforms. And okay, this one's pretty dark. So the Kong Kong ghost is unique. So you know how in America they have the SATs, right? That's like the one test you take to kind of figure out which college you're going to go to. In Korea, they have a way more extreme version of that, where it's a test that's once a year, only for like graduating students. And This test basically decides your entire future. You spend your entire childhood studying for this one test, and there's so much pressure beyond anything that like people in the West would understand. That a lot of times when kids in certain situations, when they don't do what they're expected to do, or if they fail the test, there's no second chances. It's not like SATs where you just take it again next month. No, you have to wait another year. So a lot of these kids with so much pressure,
That is pressure and stress.
there have been numerous accounts of kids right after taking a test going to their school, like the roof of their school, jumping off.
Well, I don't condone it. Trust me, I don't condone it. But can you imagine one test that could last, what, 3 hours? Say the test takes 3 hours. 3
it's
hours.
8 hours. It's
Okay,
an 8
so
hour
8
test.
hours.
Yeah.
So 8 hours of your entire life, your existence, is going to determine the rest of your life.
The rest of your life.
That's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so every year you will hear accounts of like stories in the news. Every year, even when I was living there, to this day, you know, there will be like, hey guys, don't, you know, if you need someone to talk to, they'll have those prevention lines.
Yeah.
Because in the past it got so bad, and it was so common that there were all these kids, and it wasn't like, they're not like schools in the States where they're kind of like only 1 or 2 stories and they're kind of spread out. These were like tall buildings and they were more narrow. So these kids would jump off, and that's where the konkongos comes from. The reason why it's called
landing on
konkongos,
their head.
apparently that's the sound a body makes when it's dropped from a great height and hits like.
Well, and then on their
pavement.
head, so that's why you're only going to see the legs up. Oh,
Yeah. And I've met people who said that they were, like, who claimed to have actually seen it. Like, someone told me, I remember living in Korea, like they were outside at night. It was like 2 a.m. at this old school area, like this abandoned school. They hear the sound and they look in the shadow. They can see like the outline of a pair of legs sticking up from out of the ground. And they knew what that was, and they started running.
yeah, because I mean, because your legs and arms are the last things to hit the ground normally, because your core body is going to hit first.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes sense that the legs would come up. And oh my gosh, that is awful.
Just remember, when falling from a great height, right before you land, jump as high as you can. You'll be good.
That's only in an elevator, is what they say.
I don't even know if it's that. What are you talking about? Yeah. I can't believe you brought that up.
They say if an elevator's falling before it hits the ground and you jump it, I'm like, how are you supposed to know if you're there?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
or right as you hit, grab hold so you don't bounce back up. It's that bounce back up to get you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. It's not about the elevator, you know, completely falling apart. No, I don't even know what to say about that, because I mean,
that sudden stop.
Granted, I think that not enough kids take enough seriousness when it comes to the SATs and all of that stuff. I don't think there's enough seriousness to it. A lot of kids, you know, take it seriously, but I don't think that it's enough. But to put the undue stress on someone to determine the rest of their life is...
And these kids study like 12 hours a day, like 6-7 days a week. 12 hours. They go to school from like, you know, the morning to like 3 or 4 p.m. and then they go to their night school till about 10 p.m. and then from 10 p.m. to midnight they have like study hall, and then that's from when they're like 12 years old to about 18. Could you imagine your like 12-year-old kid doing that? Yeah. Literally studying like 6 days a week, 12 hours a day.
We'd have different children.
Yeah, it's a different world.
Yeah, we'd have different children in the United States. And I don't know if I would understand that. I mean, it would completely change how your children act and behave.
Yeah. I saw a lot of that stuff firsthand because I was a teacher in Korea. That was like one of my jobs there. So I was their teacher in night school because the English was a big part of the curriculum. So I was teaching like all these kids. These are like elementary, middle school age kids, and I'm teaching them until like 10 p.m. at night.
Yeah, I don't necessarily believe in it.
I got some horror stories. Like,
yeah,
I knew this one kid, right? This kid must have been like 10 or 11 years old. He was bald like a middle-aged like bald man. Like, you know how they have that big patch, you know, the receding hairline, and it's all bald here, right? He was bald like that, but he still had hair on the side, but this part was just all bald, right? Kid was 10 or 11. It wasn't that he was going bald because of stress. This kid was literally pulling his own hair out.
Which is the thing. There's a bunch of people who do that.
This kid was like 11 years old. He looked like an old man.
Yeah, I can't be on board 100% with societies that don't let our children be children. But then again, I don't like the fact that our children are having too much fun being children and not having any responsibilities either.
It's you know, it's one side, or it's pick your poison, because there's all that crazy stuff going on in Korea, but at the same time, we got a super low crime rate, ridiculously low crime rate.
That's because everybody's in school pulling their hair out. I mean, my goodness, we would have a different society.
Yeah.
But I mean, would it be any better? I don't know. I don't know. I mean,
think about a society where 90% of the people are college educated. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But to have some of these children, and with the, the I don't even know how to put the words, but then just jumping to, to their demise because of a test. I think that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure. And would that create enough tragedy to produce energy to manifest ghosts? Absolutely 100%.
To manifest this ghost.
Yeah, or any ghost for that matter. I mean, that kind of activity could even attract something like that, because we all know that a place that has a lot of energy from tragedies or anything else can attract other similar like spirits. So, I mean, these schools and stuff could be haunted all the way through. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And with all the energy in there, with all the time that they're spending in that school, wow. I don't know. That's a lot of for me, it seems like a lot of negativity, but for them, it's probably normal. It's just a normal thing. It's kind of like, hey, I get up and I go to work, and then I come home and I do podcasts and I do all the stuff, and, and I sleep in sporadic things to get this all done. They're doing the same thing, just at a younger age. I guess that's what makes me so sad. I guess we should, as adults, I figure we need to do it, but as children, have a little bit of time. But I guess they do get their fun in somewhere, They do. Somewhere.
Little Patty asks, Little Patty asks, Donny, what's your dog's name? My dog's name is Toby, but his real name is Kunta Kinte.
Yeah, and I named mine Idi Amin too, because he's gonna be a dictator.
Yeah. Oh, okay. One last one. Okay, Brandi, let me show you the final boss of Korean ghosts. Ready?
Okay. This is the big one, right?
This is the one. This is called the egg ghost. You notice how in the picture on the left it looks literally like an egg, and then the other one is just like a lady with a blank face.
Yes.
The concept of the egg ghost, it's it's a particularly old or ancient ghost, meaning it's been a ghost for a while. Like if you look at I don't want to use the word age of a ghost because a lot of our ghosts in the States are usually from what, 17, 1800, rarely 1700s, mostly from like the 19th or early 20th centuries, right? There seems to be a shelf life, I've noticed. Like the more recent, for like, seems to be more common ghosts from the 1800s than the 1700s, for example.
Well,
like every now and then you'll
things,
see ghost stories of like Roman soldiers, but not as much as like, you know what I mean?
but most things have a shelf life.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Mm-hmm. The idea of the egg
Choked
ghost.
her up. Look, got her.
The idea of the egg ghost, it's a ghost that's nearing the end of its shelf life, meaning it's been around for a particularly long time. And the reason why it's looking like an egg is because of the passage of time and the fact that there's no one to remember who they were in life. Because the idea of an egg ghost is because, according to Korean shamanism, there's only one way to destroy a ghost. To not exorcise a ghost or banish a ghost, but to destroy a ghost, there's only one way. It's virtually impossible here in the States because of the nature by which the U.S. population is. But the only way to turn a regular ghost into this is basically you have to wipe out all trace of its genetic lineage or descendants.
Yeah.
Distant relatives. Like you got to wipe out its genetic trace from the earth.
Yeah. Didn't we talk about this before? It's like a reset on another show. We talked about it.
Yep.
So if the last of the line does not produce, let's say, an heir, then whatever family is there dies with them. So
it doesn't have to be direct. It could also be like cousins or uncles. There's got to be no trace, no distant relatives. See, that it's impossible to do that here in the States because America's so vast. And there's so much genetic crisscrossing and people mixed with like, you know, basically every Caucasian person you meet in the States, every white person you meet in the US, they're not like, oh, I'm just from England. No. It's always a mix of European countries. You always got a mix of like
Heinz 57. A Heinz 57. You know what I mean? It's a mixture of all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one ever says I'm just German unless they just arrived here from Germany. But if you're a white person in the U.S., you're a mix of this, and this, right?
And then they can't say they're just German.
Right.
I'm going to tell you that right now because the waters are muddy everywhere.
Yeah.
That's why something like this is virtually impossible in the States. But it's possible in Korea because it's such a small country. Remember, it's the size of Indiana. And in days of antiquity, a lot of these towns and cities, they were kind of just isolated from one another. Yeah. So it was possible for something like this to happen, especially, you know, with North Korea, how they wipe out entire family groups. Yeah. So the idea of an egg ghost is that as it fades or as it loses whatever trace of bloodline or genetics that linked it to its world, it loses its definition. So it loses its detail, right? It starts with the face going blank. Eventually it'll lose its limbs. And this is a ghost that's about to expire. And right before it expires, if you encounter this or if a person sees this, that means you or someone in your direct immediate family is going to die. Because this thing is what it's trying to do is before it leaves this earth, it's trying to take someone with it.
Yeah.
Because it's pissed off that nobody's around to honor it, to respect it. Because remember earlier I mentioned like these shamans, they have pictures of all these people, right? These are all like dead ancestors, ancient gods. They pay respect to that they remember. But if there's no one around to do that, then they eventually become like this.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
kind of looks like Humpty Dumpty to me.
Well, I still, you know, and I do believe that
goes
in a lot of other, in our own culture here, you know, in the United States. If you have a haunted house, but then people refuse to go, and they don't give these things attention or energy or things like that, what's going to happen?
Yeah,
They're
just
going to
gonna
fade
die.
away. They're just
Exactly. No
going to
energy to
fade
keep them
away.
going.
Right.
Right. I mean, they may move on. They may do something else because there is nobody or nothing there to give it that energy that it needs to survive. And so
Right.
I can see where you're saying that if there's not a family that can carry on the family name and give it that attention that they need for their ancestors, and this is it. I'm like, well, you should have done something different then with your life.
Right.
Should have done something different. So I mean, yeah, I get it. I mean, if you don't give them the attention and stuff that they deserve or want, yeah, they're gonna disappear, just like any entity would. Because that's why they keep telling you, like, hey, if you have ghost activity and you don't want that happening, don't pay it any attention. Don't even acknowledge it.
Right. Or is a house truly haunted if nobody goes inside ever?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't see why it wouldn't be. I mean, but once again, you talk about
because in order for the haunting to take
in,
place, someone has to be around to perceive it. If it's not,
Well,
there might be something there.
Now that's kind of like somebody had to have been in there, of course, at one time or another. Right. So, I mean, depending on, okay, we can go back to talk about limestone, water, that sort of thing to give it energy, to say if that's where the house is built on, it would have that constant, little oomph to do stuff. But I wouldn't say that it would have intellectual type hauntings. I would say you'd be running into more of the residual.
Right.
Which still requires some sort of a energy source, like you're talking about with the water or the bedrock or whatever the case might be.
Exactly. And I think that you would be dealing more with a residual, not an intellectual. Yeah.
And if there was something there intellectual there, it would just be there and not perceived at all until it had the energy from somebody observing it or somebody in the house with it. So
yeah. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I'm just thinking that if it has no outside influence, that it's just stuck in this dwelling by itself.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if it would stay or just continue its existence. And it may
kind of be there. Yeah, it may just be there.
Just be there. Yeah.
And
I mean, if it's your happy place and you end up right back there, and well, I'm not leaving it. I don't care if anybody's here or not. I'm going to do my thing. This is where I want to be.
See, I try to think of them as more like quantum physics, where there needs to be an observer for something to happen.
For it to really be, well, you can't verify without experiencing it. You know what I mean?
Right. If there's no observer, it's just the same as just them not being there, because for a haunting to occur, there has to be an observer.
You're stuck in that same old adage: if a tree falls in the woods, doesn't make a sound. If you're not there to hear it, it doesn't make a sound, obviously.
Right.
So,
right. I mean, I don't know. That's a good one, Don. I'll have to think on that one. That's a really good one.
Remember, Brandi, and I'll let us go with this one. Remember this past Monday you were doing Black Eyed Kids with Tex?
Yes.
Okay. Can I give you my personal theory on what Black Eyed Kids are?
Absolutely, please.
Okay. Have you watched Dead Files, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay. There was this one episode of Dead Files where this woman, she was like a mother, and they were in a very haunted house, and this thing was attached to her like 6-year-old kid, right? So her young son. And then one day, her son attacks her. He's normally a really sweet, loving boy, but he attacks her, and she said that when he attacked her, his eyes were jet black, and it disturbed her, right? And then once his eyes became normal, he had no memory of what happened. But she knew at that moment that thing, whatever was in their house, had taken control of her son, right? Now, when a family is being terrorized by ghosts in their house, right? What's the ultimate goal of whatever evil entity?
Is to take
over.
somebody's, to take
Right.
over, yeah.
Now, a lot of times it doesn't happen because what will happen is either the family will move out or they'll bring in some kind of help. But in the worst case scenario, let's say the parents don't even believe in ghosts, so they just kind of let it fester and don't do anything about it. This thing, whatever it is, completely takes over. Let's imagine the worst case scenario. Imagine worst case scenario, the whole family is just a 100% completely, not just possessed, dominated, right? Completely taken over. My theory is that once that happens, the next thing it tries to do is to move to a new house. In order for it to move house after it's completely taken over, like dominated someone, it's what the black-eyed kids do. That's my own personal theory. It's kind of like a haunted house that's kind of completed its form, its life cycle. And then at the end of its life cycle, now that's done everything it's needed to do in this house, it needs to now move and find a new house.
So are they using, are you saying they're using the children as the vessel?
Yeah,
And
just kind of spread the seed.
To kind of spread. Oh. That's
That's why they're so eager to go into another person's house.
Yeah, that they're always asking to come in. They're, to get in their car, to get in their home.
Yeah. So that the cycle can continue.
Yeah. And that makes sense, honestly. That kind of makes sense.
Well, yeah, because I was talking about possibly they were feeding on energy, on life essence, or however you want to put it. I mean, that is definitely, like something to think about for sure. Because any guess is a good one to me because there are no answers out there.
Right.
And, and we're hearing, little tidbits, not as much as other, stories. And again, I don't know what to classify these things as because we don't know. I mean, some say demonic, some say, I believe they're more on the alien thing. You think that they're more on the, what would you say, a demonic side of it? Or would you just say a ghostly type entity?
Somewhere in between that, between ghosts and demonic. Yeah.
It's not necessarily a demon, but it's a nasty.
But it ain't good neither.
It's a malevolent spirit. It's not. It's not a nice guy. It's a mean thing, but it may not be an actual demon. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean that is a very interesting thought because I just these things are the ones where I can't classify it. I don't know what it is. I don't know where to put it. I don't know.
Joanne asked one out there. And I was going to ask this of y'all before we got out of here, just so you can see it. It says she asked, "What do you think if someone died in a flood and the spirit stays on the land, and another flood comes and washes everything away? And what the remains would that spirit remain?" What are your thoughts on that one? Like, honestly, I don't know that a spirit would be stuck to the land it died on necessarily. You know what I mean? Maybe in the residual, but not in the intellectual.
I don't think as spirits we're attached to our bodies after we have left it. That is just a vessel. That is not our soul. So we're not going to hang out with our body. Now, I have heard about hauntings in cemeteries and things like that, and that may be true. They may not have anywhere else to go, or this is the best thing they've got, or they may be waiting for loved ones that are never going to come. There are those types of hauntings.
Right.
But primarily, I go to cemeteries all the time, and I find them to be more peaceful than anywhere else.
I've never had anything. I've never had anything happen at a cemetery. In all the investigations I've done at them, I've never physically or even intellectually, I should say, had anything ever happen. I've done even up at Brown Springs. I've done EVPs and I've done everything up that old graveyard up there. I just don't get any of the stuff that deals with the graveyard. I think if you got anything in a graveyard / a death site, flood, whatever the case was, I think it's going to be a residual.
Films is right. No one dies at a cemetery.
No.
And I don't think we remain with our bodies. I mean, that's just one of the last places I want to be. You know, like I said, unless, you know, that odd spirit that's saying, hey,
I think the residual energy
I
think the residual energy that's left at a cemetery is actually from the living who are mourning.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe so,
like
too.
she was saying, this is a site where somebody got killed in a flood, drowned in a flood.
Right.
Yeah.
And then with all the flooding going around, you know, these last week or so, you know, everybody's talking.
Yeah. I don't think I think they'll go where they want to go.
Yeah. I think if there's anything there in any way, shape, or form, it would be a residual.
I think there's too many variables to know one way or the other, right?
Yeah.
True.
It depends on the individual, depends on the nature of the flooding. It depends on, location may have something to do with it.
Yeah.
Right.
There's too many variables.
Yeah, there's just a lot of variables to it. Yeah, and that's why we investigate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
So we can find out exactly what we're dealing with in a particular location and find out the information, you know, find the history about them, the property, everything else. That's what we do. So, you know, but I don't think they would follow their body.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so either. I think they'd go where they're most happiest type thing.
Right.
I still believe that the happiest or where they think they have their most, the most need for them to be. You know what I mean?
Where they would be found. You know, either their family would come there, or they know to come there, or you know, it's just stuff like that. It's just
or they watch over their family, that kind of deal. So
anyway,
I know what I'll do when I become a ghost eventually.
What's that?
I will be fighting crime and solving mysteries.
I'll hire you, even after you pass the first hired entity to do something.
That's when I finally get the power, so that's when my vigilante career begins.
Y'all gonna sit here and start this Dead Boy Detective Agency all over again, aren't you?
Yeah.
Right.
I'll solve murder mysteries. That's what I'm gonna do.
He'll have the Scooby-Doo gang, the new one. 2.0.
Yeah.
All right. With that, everybody, we got to skedaddle out of here.
Yeah, we got stuff to do.
We got stuff to do. So we'll see everybody back here next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central. Don't forget Blondes and Boos tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central, and again at 7 p.m. Central on Friday. Donny Cho is on at 8:30 Saturday night with Donny Cho Says Stuff. And don't forget Randy Gilbert and myself on Sunday at 5 p.m. Central with Truth or Tinfoil. So good night, everybody.
Night.